The Barcelona preseason test is officially underway, and as the car completed its first laps on track this morning, the technical community is already buzzing about one particular aspect of the team's 2026 Challenger. The sidepods on this car are unlike anything we have seen from the Milton Keynes base team before, and they could represent either a stroke of genius or a significant gamble that might not pay off. With the driver at the wheel for the initial installation laps while his teammate watches from the garage, we are finally getting our first real look at what the team has been working on. When the car rolled out of the pit lane this morning, the immediate reaction from engineers and analysts was one of surprise. The side pods are described as super tight with an extremely small frontal cross section that makes the car look almost impossibly slim from certain angles. One prominent technical analyst described the bodywork as extremely tapered, comparing it to a tightened up version of what another team has been doing. But this team has taken this concept even further, pushing the boundaries of what teams thought was possible under the new regulations. The most striking feature is how the team has managed to reduce the air intake area in the side pods to a level much smaller than any of their competitors. While other teams have opted for generous cooling solutions to ensure reliability in this first year of the new regulations, this team appears to be prioritizing aerodynamic efficiency above all else. This is a continuation of a philosophy they introduced in the previous year, where they pioneered an additional inlet on top of the side pod that exploits the high-pressure area created by the cockpit obstruction. With the team choosing such an aggressive approach to their side pod design, while their sister team has gone in the completely opposite direction with oversized air intakes, do you think this gamble on aerodynamic efficiency over cooling margin will pay off, or could reliability issues derail their championship hopes before the season even gets going? There are also reports of an inlet position between the sponsorship areas on the car which could be feeding additional cooling or serving an aerodynamic purpose. The double bargeboard stay that the team has adopted is similar to what another team has done with their car, suggesting that both teams have identified this as an important area for development. One of the most talked about features is what analysts are calling sidepod cannon exits, which are the first of their kind seen on any 2026 car. These outlets appear to be designed to expel hot air from the cooling system in a way that also benefits the aerodynamics of the car. Rather than simply dumping hot air out of the side pods, the team seems to be using this airflow to energize the flow over the rear of the car, potentially improving downforce and reducing drag simultaneously. The airbox on the car is noticeably larger than what the team has used in previous years, featuring a different shape that more closely resembles what their sister team has adopted. This suggests that the team has shifted some of their cooling requirements to the central airbox area, which feeds the engine and hybrid systems through ducts that run along the center line of the car. By moving cooling capacity to this area, they can afford to run smaller side pod inlets without compromising reliability. The 2026 regulations have changed the cooling requirement significantly. The combustion engine actually needs less cooling than before, but the upscaled hybrid system generates more heat that needs to be rejected. This shift in the thermal balance has forced all teams to rethink their cooling strategies, and the team appears to have found a solution that allows them to minimize the aerodynamic penalty of cooling while still managing the heat from the new power unit. Comparing the car to the competition here in Barcelona reveals just how aggressive the team's approach really is. Their rivals, who will not run until tomorrow, have also gone with a small air scope, making their car arguably the most extreme from a cooling perspective, but their rival's side pod air inlet section appears fairly generous to compensate for the small central intake. This team, by contrast, has gone small in both areas, relying on their unique top-mounted inlet and sophisticated airflow management to make up the difference. Another team was first out on track this morning with their driver at the wheel, and their car shows a more conservative approach with generous air intakes, including 2 outer ears alongside the central triangle. That team appears to be prioritizing reliability in this first year of the new regulations, which is understandable given the complexity of the changes. They completed more laps than anyone else during the first hour, almost twice as many as the next car, suggesting their conservative cooling approach is paying dividends in terms of reliability. The question that everyone in the paddock is asking is whether the team's aggressive approach will give them a performance advantage or leave them vulnerable to reliability issues. The new power units are completely untested in race conditions, and the thermal demands of a full race distance are very different from what teams experience during testing. If the team has underestimated the cooling requirements, they could find themselves having to open up the bodywork and sacrifice aerodynamic performance just to keep the car running. On the other hand, if the team has got their calculations right, they could have a significant advantage over teams that have been more conservative. Every bit of bodywork that can be removed or streamlined reduces drag and improves downforce, which translates directly into lap time. In a season where the regulations are completely new and everyone is still learning, having an aerodynamic edge from the start could be decisive. This Barcelona test, running until January the 30th, will provide crucial data on whether the team's gamble is paying off. If the car completes consistent mileage without overheating issues over the next few days, it will be a strong sign that their aggressive cooling philosophy is viable. But if they struggle with reliability while others rack up the laps, questions will inevitably be asked about whether they have pushed too far. What is clear is that the team has not lost their appetite for innovation. The car represents a bold statement of intent from a team that has dominated recent seasons and clearly believes they can continue that success into the new era. Whether the sidepod design proves to be a master stroke or a misstep, it demonstrates that the team is still willing to take risks in pursuit of performance. The technical regulations for 2026 have opened up new possibilities for sidepod design that simply did not exist before. The governing body has created specific regulatory volumes that allow teams to place ducts in new locations, feeding coolers, or even the turbo airbox inside the engine cover. The team appears to have exploited these new freedoms more aggressively than any other team, creating a car that looks radically different from its competitors despite everyone working to the same rulebook. For the fans watching from home, the sidepod debate might seem like a minor technical detail, but it could have major implications for the championship. If the team has found a way to run less cooling without sacrificing reliability, they will have an advantage that other teams cannot easily copy. Redesigning the entire cooling architecture of a Formula One car is not something that can be done overnight, and any team that has gone too conservative will be playing catch up for months. As the car continues to circulate around Barcelona today, all eyes will be on those remarkably slim side pods to see if they can handle the heat. Elsewhere in the pit lane, the contrast in design philosophy grows starker with every passing hour. The cars from teams that opted for more conservative, voluminous cooling solutions continue to pound around the circuit with metronomic reliability, adding lap after lap to their tally. This consistent mileage is invaluable data, allowing those teams to refine their understanding of the new power unit's behavior and chassis dynamics without the looming worry of overheating. The strategic divergence is now a tangible narrative of the test, pitting the bold pursuit of aerodynamic purity against the cautious assurance of operational stability. The track has become a live experiment, testing which philosophy will yield the most valuable foundation for the season ahead. Back in the engineering offices, rival teams are undoubtedly conducting a deep forensic analysis of every photograph and video frame of the car. The precise geometry of the sidepod cannon exits, the curvature of the tiny inlets, and the routing of the cooling ducts visible through the bodywork are all subjects of intense study. The question being modeled in simulators up and down the paddock is not just about the car's current state, but its potential evolution. If the core concept is sound, how much performance is locked within that sleek silhouette, and how difficult would it be to replicate its principles on their own designs? The risk for the team's rivals is twofold. First, that the gamble succeeds and creates a performance gap, and second, that the underlying architecture is so integrated and unique that it cannot be quickly copied, forcing a season-long game of catch-up. As the sun begins to lower over the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, the final hours of the day will be critical. This is when teams often conduct longer race simulation runs that put the fullest sustained load on the cooling systems. For the team with the radical side pods, this represents the ultimate initial test of their concept. Can the car complete a full fuel load run at competitive pace without its temperature soaring into the red? Any retreat to the garage? Any significant reduction in lap time to manage heat? Or any visible modifications to add cooling will be instantly noted as a potential concession that the design is too extreme. Conversely, if the car circulates with the same relentless consistency as its more conservatively cooled rivals, a palpable wave of concern will ripple through the paddock, signaling that the team may have once again unlocked a decisive advantage through its uncompromising innovation. The story of the 2026 season is being written with every lap completed and every temperature reading here on the first day of testing.